This program is proudly brought to you by Telecom Limited and Daytech.
Supreme Court holds the exclusive jurisdiction.
In this session of Infocus, we feature our interview with former Papua New Guinea Defence Force Commander, retired Commodore Peter Illau. He shares his thoughts on the recently proposed Puk-Puk Treaty between Australia and Papua New Guinea, which fundamentally seeks to integrate the two respective forces. Commodore Peter Illau, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, firstly, Commodore, from your understanding of martial or military law, should in the future a party or individual who may have reservations about the constitutionality of the proposed treaty, would they be able to challenge this in the PNG Supreme Court?
Yes, Malcolm, absolutely. I think it's under Section 18 of the Constitution of Papua New Guinea. The Supreme Court holds the exclusive jurisdiction to interpret any question relating to constitutionality of laws, any executive actions or international agreements, including treaties in this particular case. This provision, I think this particular provision serves as a cornerstone of our legal system. And it ensures that no instrument or action can bypass the supremacy of the Constitution of Papua New Guinea.
Now, it was initially scheduled to become a treaty. It's now been revised to a non-binding communique. How do you feel about that?
Well, I guess that's both sides exercising caution and probably trying to be mindful of the fact that there are other stakeholders who need to be consulted in this particular case. Usually a communique is used to express intent, particularly in the diplomatic environment. But you really have to read into the communique what it's actually leading to. At this point, I haven't seen the text of the actual narrative of the treaty, so I can't be too biased here at this stage.
Now, given Papua New Guinea's historical position within the non-aligned movement, does this proposed treaty risk our position within the movement?
Yes, it does. It is, if the treaty is, especially if the treaty is poorly framed or overly one-sided, then yes, there is quite a big risk that we have to pay attention to. It also brings with it a lot of uncertainties. Papua New Guinea's foreign policy, as you know, it's been around a long time, and we've aligned ourselves with the non-alignment movement for all these years, 50 plus years. By aligning ourselves, we resist any bloc politics in the global community, and we maintain our strategic flexibility, so we are able to pursue our nation's interests as and where we feel fit as a country.
What would you say would be the potential ramifications of PNG's omission from the non-aligned movement?
Like everything else in life, if you stick too closely to a single partner, and no matter how friendly or how beneficial that relationship may be, it risks undermines any form of neutrality that you might want to exercise in the future. Such deep integration can, probably signal a shift towards an alignment that, like in the past, we're able to say things because we're not committed to any particular alignment. But if we sign this treaty and stay within the parameters of this treaty, then there are a lot of things that we're not able to say that we were able to say in the past. And that obviously then constrains our ability to maneuver, either in our geospace or in the larger global space. It can also complicate our relationship with other key players in the region. We're in a region where superpowers are present. We have China, we have India, we have US, and of course medium powers like Australia close to us that we have to balance ourselves, I guess. And larger multilateral groups like ASEAN Group, the Pacific Neighbors, MSG, we also have to balance ourselves how we deal with these neighbors.
It's a good segue into my next question, and it's around the geopolitical risks that may come with Papua New Guinea signing up to this treaty.
Yeah.
By entering this level of integration with the Australian Defence Force, Papua New Guinea is clearly choosing sides in the strategic contest between Australia, the US, and China. Given that China is our largest trading partner, what risks are we taking with our economy and diplomacy if Beijing decides to retaliate?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Well, if we, as a country, Papua New Guinea, drift away from non-alignment, if I can start that way, we risk forfeiting a vital diplomatic platform that has historically, amplified our voice in the global community. Non-aligned movement is, it's more than a symbolic affiliation, it's a strategic posture that one takes. And that posture allows smaller nations like Papua New Guinea to, if you like, assert our influence also in multilateral forums such as the United Nations, and where collective bargaining among non-aligned states can also help us to shape or have influence on outcomes that will reflect our interests as well. Yeah. But I think if we align too closely with major power blocs, we will narrow our diplomatic bandwidth. And in today's geopolitical climate, I guess it marks by intensifying competition between global powers, as you've mentioned China. Such narrowing is just maybe a clear-cut loss of flexibility for us. And it is a path to increased vulnerability for the country. We're playing a one power against another. I wouldn't, as the former head of the military, I wouldn't advise on that. We really have to be, even if we are non-aligned, we must show commitment and trust to whoever we engage with. And definitely, you'll have to put yourself in the shoes of China to think, how much they've put into this country. I think they did a lot of walking in the country. They didn't just talk. Some of our traditional neighbors, there's a lot of talking and some limited walking in very selective parts of the country, selective parts of governance. And we only have to look at the last 50 years where we are today and say whether do we need to repair the policies that we put in place, or do we need to change just our attitude in managing those policies better?
Now, in terms of public perception and national identity, most Papua New Guineans may see this agreement less as a defense partnership and more as an economic migration route into Australia through the ADF service. How do you convince people that this is about national security and not just about jobs and citizenship authorities? That's
equally strong question. But before I answer that, let me just backtrack a little bit to important points you made, the question you asked on China. All of us know that China has invested large amount to our economy. And any move to undermine China would be a bad move. Totally unwise, and totally unwise for the trickle-down effects to affect our people, particularly those in business, those in the economic industry sectors that rely on a lot of materials and stuff, trade, in export-import kind of arrangements. They really had, if we had the arrangement or the traditional relationship we've enjoyed so far with countries like China. There's others as well, like Japan, Korea, others. And I guess one way to mitigate this is Papua New Guinea as a country, we have to be crystal clear in how we message, how we send messages, how we communicate our intent within the region. And the treaty, whatever treaty we have, it must be defensive for our country and not provocative to our friends. And at the end of the day, most of our people will agree that, or most of us in the security community or defense community will agree that It's about safeguarding PNG's sovereignty, PNG's interest. When we talk about that, we talk about our maritime borders, our land borders, our coastlines, our very long coastlines. We're a country that we're not looking for confrontation. We're a resilient nation. We go through many challenges. We went through COVID like the rest of the world, but we stood in there. We came out of it. So the language of the treaty or public statement and diplomatic outreach, it must reinforce all those narratives that I've just mentioned. It has to capture all of that. It cannot be little bits and pieces here to serve someone else's interest. But going back to your question on migration, it's not just a policy issue. I think it's a very serious perception challenge that strikes at the heart of our national identity and public trust. I see across Papua New Guinea there is growing unease that the defense treaty with Australia may be less genuine about military cooperation and maybe more about, creating a backdoor policy for people to move to Australia. I haven't read the treaty, so I can't say too much on it, but these are my personal views. And for many citizens, maybe this treaty evokes a lot of concerns on maybe people with a lot of hidden agendas. There's a lot of hidden agendas. Access to Australian jobs, fast-track citizenship, and migration opportunities rather than clear communication to strengthening Papua New Guinea sovereignty is what we should all be looking at, as opposed to using entities like the Papua New Defense Force as an employment hub, as a migration hub. Papua New Defense Force is not a migration hub. It's not a passport hub. It's the heart and soul of the defense of the country, protection of our land, our sovereignty. So I guess if this narrative is allowed to fester, it will risk undermining the credibility of our country. Particularly, it will contribute to the undermining of the Papua New Guinea Defense Force. And that's what most of us former commanders are very, very concerned about. The perception that enlistment is a stepping stone to an Australian passport rather than a patriotic duty to defend our homeland. Seriously, it corrodes the very foundation of our military institution that we created. And it shifts the motivation from services to self-interest. And I can tell you, Malcolm, it's dangerous.
In terms of sovereignty and independence, Commodore PNG has just celebrated independence, its 50th independence. Doesn't this treaty, with its promise of totally integrated force, risk making the PNG Defence Force look more like an extension of the Australian military rather than a sovereign national force?
Yes, that's probably a question closer to my heart. That risk absolutely, it exists if the treaty is signed without any robust safeguards, okay? No robust safeguards, that's extremely high risk. The phrase totally integrated force, it may sound appealing in the diplomatic circles, but it's evoking unity. It may be evoking unity and shared purpose. That's what they will argue. But in practice, it carries very serious implications for our sovereignty. It carries very serious implications for our integration. And if not carefully defined, it can easily slide into subordination. And by that time, in Papua New Guinea Defense Force now becomes a subordinate of the ADF. And that, to me, is unacceptable. The Papua New Guinea Defense Force must remain firmly under national command national command and control. At no point should our troops be answerable to a foreign chain of command. Any joint operations must be governed by a dual key system, requiring explicit authorization from our national government through the cabinet and through the parliament before any deployment is considered. This ensures that PNG's elected leadership, our leaders today, and not the external actors, our leaders retain final say over any military engagement, particularly when wanting to send troops abroad. Our elected leaders are the ones to make the decision, not foreigners.
Now, there is a strong argument, particularly from the Prime Minister, that this treaty can modernize the Papua New Guinea Defence Force. What is your response to that?
Modernization, I welcome. Papua New Guinea Defence Force need to develop, it needs to grow, needs technology and stuff to. But we don't want to trade in modernization and become subordinate. We don't want to allow another country to provide capital, to provide material, to provide equipment, and give privileges for citizenship. And we have no say over how and where our young men and women are going to be deployed. That should not be entertained. I think fiscal realism for Papua New Guinea Defence Force is what's been missing since 1975 and beyond. Governments need to commit to investment into the Papua New Guinea Defence Force, on its platforms, on its manpower, on its maritime force, on its aviation force. It's our instrument of power, and we have to invest in it, not another nation investing in it, only to find that they, at the end of the day, will take control of that instrument of power, and we don't. That's the kind of concern that I have. And I'm sure my colleagues in the defense community also have similar concerns. Malcolm, we have to resist the temptation to chase prestigious or prestige systems, high cost, high maintenance platforms that look impressive, but at the end of the day, they don't serve our core strategic needs. Yeah? We're not able to send a troop force down to the waterways in Western Province or walk the river lines and the valleys down the Sundown area and all that, the common border areas. And yet, we're pushing to be in high-tech areas and all that. If we are not able to do, if PNGDF is not able to do what it was originally intended to do, then it is not fit for purpose. PNGDF has to be fit for purpose. And the only authority and entity that can make it fit for purpose is its own government, its own parliament, its own instrument of governance.
Now, in terms of long-term dependence, do we risk creating a defence force where we cannot afford without permanent Australian budget support to function?
Yeah. I mean, I just said that there's a greater risk in, particularly on look, if we were both neighbors and my children come and have dinner with you every night, and I call them home after 6 o'clock bedtime, they will never listen to me because the loyalty is with you. And only when you tell them to go to bed, they will go to bed. That's what's going to happen. We probably won't see it now, but in the next 10, 15, 20 years, you will have no more control on the youth population, or there will be a definite brain drain because all our top citizens will be poached to serve in another nation's interest. And we keep what they don't like, what they think is not adding value to them. And we have to find solutions to how to look after the ones who are staying home. And the problem's not over. So it's a complex set of issues on how we want to make commitments to this type of treaty.
As a former commander of the Papua New Guinea Defence Force, how have you witnessed the institution evolve over the years? And in your personal opinion, what is the direction you'd like to see the PNG Defence Force head towards?
Whatever direction we set, we must ensure that Papua New Guinea Defence Force has to be fit for purpose. And those purposes, I mentioned, putting troops on the ground, looking after our long coastline, looking after our common borders, being able to respond to nation building, either through our engineering, our medical teams, helping civil authorities during national events. High seas, 200-mile economic zone, we still have to show presence there. We haven't done that well yet. We've got much bigger platforms now, but we're not doing it as well as when we had smaller platforms. They're not spending enough time at sea nowadays, from what I hear. We used to spend at least, 100 and over 140, 150 days operational. So which means that you could be away from family for anything between 2 months to 3 months, sometimes 6 months to 7 months, depending on where you are deployed. I don't see that happening nowadays. So we've got a lot of work to do. We need aviation surveillance. Crime, criminals, transnational criminals have become smarter. They come through the front door now. They don't come hidden. And some of them come in suit and tie. Some of them come through luxury yachts, or they come through logging ships or fishing boats, and who actually carry high-tech equipment as well. So they can detect vessels coming, they can detect air surveillance, and they can also craft their own ways and means to enter the country. So the criminal world has upped their tactics in their criminal activities, but we, who are supposed to be enforcing laws, monitoring surveillance, and looking after a nation, we've got a long way to go. We're not able to match that. And by going to a country like Australia, we think that we're solving the problem. We're shortcutting the process and bringing someone else who can do it better than us, who has bigger platforms. But then the dangerous part of that is we're undermining our sovereignty and our independence.
We are conscious of the national security problems we have in Papua New Guinea, particularly with the tribal fights up in the highlands. Do you foresee a role where the Papua New Guinea Defence Force can better attend to these issues?
Yeah, look, tribal fights and those type of things, in my opinion, are symptoms of what went wrong. We saw Bougainville for 10 years. It was a symptom, an end result of what went wrong. The root causes were far away from the root cause, the symptom, the sign and symptom. So when you send the military out, you're sending the military out to deal with an entire system that has already gone wrong. It's already corrupted. It's already out of alignment. And we're just going in to apply Band-Aid treatment. We're not solving the problem. We could arrest a few ringleaders, and we could destroy a few of their strongholds, but we don't kill the idea. The idea that generated what they're doing today, that idea needs to be researched, found out where the root causes are, and we deal with the root causes where these issues are coming from. And Papua New Guinea Defence Force is an important tool, important instrument of power, but it doesn't hold the ultimate answer to solving problems like the tribal fight. We've got to look at the governance issues of those provinces that have gone wrong. We need to look at the governance issues. We need to see how those communities are run in terms of investment and business. We need to see how wealth is shared in those provinces. We need to see how infrastructure is built. Is it linking up all the entire districts, or a couple of districts are linked and the rest of them are still disconnected? Those kind of things. They all boil down to why human being fight another human being. You have something in your house that I don't have. If you don't share it with me, I will come and take it. And if you don't cooperate, then I will have to resort to a weapon that will put me on an upper hand to take what I want. And that's basically what we're seeing. And if you bring in foreign powers to deal with it, they will only put fuel to fire. Why? Because they don't understand the actual dynamics of why these things happen. What is the Melanesian society? How did it go wrong? What is the tribal system of the highlands communities in Papua New Guinea, the New Guinea Island communities, the Momase, the southern region communities, the Milne Bay, off-Lane Islands? We're all different. So if you sign on a treaty and you have no choice but allow the other guy who's with you, who has no idea, to go in and solve it for you, we're going to have serious problems with our people.
Finally, what is your call to the government in regards to the treaty that is currently being proposed to be signed between Papua New Guinea and Australia?
Well, first of all, let me say that I haven't seen the draft of the treaty yet, so I can't really comment on that. But I can basically say that the treaty comes at a time when our country is at a crossroad of development. And we don't only have technology pressing down on our current trends, mindset, and lifestyle, but also we have superpowers that are some degree of Cold War going on. And there are some areas of the global community suggesting that there could be outbreak of war in some parts of the world. And the players we're looking at, some of the key players that we're looking at that could be involved in that, ones that we're also dealing with. So my advice to government is we have to do wider consultation. And I'm available, General Singrok is available, there's other former commanders are there. We're all available. We are your sons, we've been there. And we've done all the training and experience and whatever that's required. And we're willing to talk about this. And it's better to slow it down and cover as many areas as possible, discuss this before we come to a decision, than to regret it 10, 15 years' time, we regret signing the thing. And we find it hard to explain to parents who are grieving over their sons and daughters who've been killed in another part of the world and not been able to be brought home. That's the kind of picture that I want to say to government, that we are here. You don't have to talk to foreigners to find out how to do these things. We can advise you on how to shape a treaty that can respect our friendship with Australia, but have solid assurance for our sovereignty, for our people, and for our choice to be a non-aligned movement. That choice has to be respected, because that's what we chose from the beginning. It's not broken, so let's not fix it.
Retired Commodore Peter Illau, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, viewers, that ends this episode of Infocus. Do join us again next week Monday on our regular time slot of 7 p.m. Till then, bye for now.
This program was proudly brought to you by Telecom Limited and Daytech.